Steven Espinoza says Spence versus Crawford could be the death of boxing because of fans and piracy. What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. Alright, y'all. So recently, Steven Espinoza gave an interview and he spoke about the Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford fight and why he feels like that piracy by fans is the reason this fight took so long and could actually be the end of boxing.
We get 3% to the organizations. I mean, we gotta know where this money going to. Man, you got Canelo and Josh and all these guys, making $50 million, and these belts getting 3% of that. Where's it going to? How's he having a fight attack? What are they doing with it?
I want to get my deuce on that and break that down for whoever's listening. Alright, y'all. Steven Espinoza has, recently been making this argument about fans and piracy and super fights and why super fights don't happen when fans want them to happen or when they should happen, at certain points in people's careers, because they would be more beneficial to happen at this point in their career than 5 years later in their career. And, I think that he has a point, but I think he's pointing the finger at the wrong place.
I went through that. I thought that I could put, me and my homie just filmed a little few tricks. I edited it on my iPhone. Yeah. I was going to put a brand new song that was unheard. But then I was like, you know what goes well to it? Song that's already out. Call it real quick. Like, you can't, you can't put that up. Did you clear that? Clear one? That's me.
And, I'm saying that for a reason. I'm saying that because it shouldn't always be the fans' fault why something isn't happening the way that they want it to happen and why something isn't happening the way we want it to happen. And it always seems like it's the people versus the people with the money, or it's the people versus the CEOs or the bigwigs or the presidents of certain companies or the bosses or owners or whatever it is that runs that entity. It's always the poor versus the rich, the have-nots versus the haves.
Most jails are public sector, right? So you get paid by the bed. You know how much they get paid per prisoner? $1 million fucking dollars. Every kid goes to jail and gets $1 million. He's a millionaire if he goes to jail. But he ain't getting none of that money.
And I think this is the problem with life in general, not just in sports and boxing and, entertainment. I think in life, this is a real problem that nobody wants to address.
Since you so smart, what is an obtuse angle?
The people at the bottom try to address it, but the people at the top don't want to hear it. And it'll never get fixed until we all can come together and find a solution.
You black bastard.
Now, Steven Espinoza, I do think has a point. I do feel like piracy has played a role in why some of these fights don't happen when they're supposed to happen. But at the same time, this has been going on far further back in boxing history, way before the internet played any type of role in why these fights weren't selling well.
The fuck is he talking about?
Because if you think back, Maypac, was supposed to happen originally back when the internet wasn't as popular. Now, the internet was around when Maypac was originally pitched, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. There wasn't as many streaming sites. There wasn't all these free ways of watching fights back then. And even when Maypac happened, it wasn't as prevalent then as it is now. Now, the internet was booming when Maypac actually happened, but I don't think the streaming sites to where you could just watch it for free, I don't think that they were as prevalent back then as they are now, or they weren't as easy to find back then as they are right now. And, you know, kudos to Maypac for still putting up the numbers that they put up. They still did very good numbers, you know, in the midst of, yeah, there were streaming sites out there, but they didn't seem to take such a big chunk out of that fight as they are nowadays. And, you know, there are other fights I can mention as well, like Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman. That fight did very well. It didn't do where it probably should have done if it wasn't for the streaming sites, but I do feel like there were other fights. Canelo's been selling well. Tyson Fury sells well. Deontay Wilder sells well. So my point is, I don't think you can completely blame the streaming sites for why boxing isn't selling at its highest that it could possibly be selling. Now, I think a lot of this has to do with the pricing. It's like the whole world is price gouging everybody. Anybody who owns something at this point, they're commanding the highest dollar amount that they can possibly get, and they're basically just price gouging their customers to the point to where the customers are finally starting to rebel and saying, well, if I can't get it for this price, I'm going to find a way to get it for free. And I think that that's going on across the board.
If you own a hotel, you want people to come back, right? So this is independent sector, meaning an independent, not the government doesn't own these jails. They outsource it. So, of course, if they own a hotel and they're getting paid by the bed, they want you to come back. You know what's a sure way to make you come back? Make you a dope fiend and send you out into the street with a 4th grade education and have us fighting each other.
I'm going back. I'm going to make another deal with Thor. I'm going to have millions again. Everything's going to be all right. But on the plane, I started doing some cocaine.
If you look at what was going on during the crisis in the world and egg prices and gas prices and, you know, what made an egg any more tasty or, you know, more expensive today than it was the day before, simply because people say that they need it more because there's a shortage, you know, and there really was never a shortage of these things. They just weren't shipping as fast because people couldn't go to work. So there was almost like a false sense of urgency, and that was driving the price through the roof.
And regardless if you are rehabilitated or not, you put a nigga back in the war, he got to go get his stick. You no matter what, you're not letting nobody do nothing to you. Your ops ain't get rehabilitated. So it's a guaranteed cycle. And I'm like, damn, this is what they doing too? I'm watching this shit and I see the play. So now I'm tight. And we got to change that and bring awareness to it. And know that we are customers for them.
And I kind of feel like that's what's going on in the boxing world. You know, the fans have this urgent need for great fights, and the promoters and owners and all these other entities feel like that's a false sense of urgency because they can't sell the pay-per-view at the highest price. You know, so they'll hold off and hold off and hold off until they feel like it's the perfect moment to strike, and they feel like they can justify charging people the highest price for these pay-per-views.
Message!
I just feel like that if boxing, you know, would take a closer look at the numbers and try to find a way to, you know, cut the numbers, that the pay-per-view sales would go up. I feel like if they would, you know, stop trying to price gouge people for super fights, I think that they would sell a whole lot more pay-per-views if they took a different approach with how much this stuff actually costs. Because, you know, I do feel like everybody deserves to get paid, but at what point is $20 million enough? At what point is $50 million enough? If you're getting 50, why do you need 60 or 70? You know, is that going to really make that much of a difference in your bottom line or in your future? You know, if you've already made $90 million off of boxing, you know, what's another 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 million dollars going to do for you? You're never going to be able to spend that money in your lifetime anyway. And if you do spend that much money in your lifetime, you got to be like Mike Tyson said, God has the favor of the stupid, because only a stupid person will run through that type of money in one lifetime without making that money work for them?
2000, I must have been, what, 60 million in debt by then. I had so much debt that I couldn't pay the people, right? I couldn't believe how I kept my house when I got all this debt. And they call you, Mike, can you give us anything? You must have something. I know you're going to fight again.
To me, it's almost like I do feel like the fans deserve a little bit of blame for this. But at what point do you realize that you're price gouging people and people just not going to take it anymore? And you have to change your motto to get people to come back. Back in Mike Tyson's day, they said that, the price of all this stuff would never go higher than what Mike Tyson was making. He was the highest paid boxer in history at one time. And his fights were going for around $60, sometimes $70. Now we're in the age of barely known fighters are commanding $100 for a pay-per-view. What has changed in the quality of these fights that's making them worth more than a Mike Tyson fight? Because in all honesty, these fighters nowadays are not as talented as those fighters were back in the early 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. So if the product has gotten worse, why has the dollar amount went up for the product? It just doesn't make sense. Normally the price increases when something is worth more or something has changed the quality. So now you're paying for better quality. And it's all across the board, man. You can go from gas prices. The gas ain't no better today than it was 10 years ago. But they were paying, 90% less 10 years ago than we're paying today. But the quality is exactly the same. And I feel the same way about just sports in general. I can't even watch sports anymore because the quality's gone so far down. Only sport I can really watch nowadays is boxing. And it's becoming even worse with boxing.
I was pretty immature in 2003. I was really upset. And I've done things I shouldn't have done. I really loved Don, and I really didn't mean to do that stuff back then. I told this story before. I was on a jet. Don was talking to me, and he was talking about, man, we gotta get these white motherfuckers out of our business, man. That's all these white motherfuckers do. Just come over here, man. You gonna sign this check, nigga. Me, you gonna be 2 rich niggas, okay? I'm gonna make another deal with Don. I'm gonna have millions again. Everything's gonna be all right. On the plane, I started doing some cocaine. I'm getting ready to go see 40 million bucks, and I'm broke. I don't have a penny. So I'm on this jet, this beautiful jet. And once I do the cocaine, I say to myself, Don is dissing me. This is my motherfucking plane. He's sending my plane with the money he stole from me to pick me up. That's some bitch shit. Why did I go there? Why can't I go somewhere else? Why did I have to go there? Why did it have to be about me? And he's making a fool out of me by sending my plane to pick me up, and I can't keep my plane. I have all this festering up by the time I land in Miami. We land in Miami. Dawn comes. I get in the back. Hey, man, yeah, man, we gonna get this money. Fuck these white motherfuckers, man. Gonna be me and 2 niggas. And for some reason, I don't know. I just kick the boom, and it stops. It's on the 15. Some kind of way, we chasing around the car, and then he gets in the car, he takes off. And then my girl got weed and cocaine in my box. My shoe box, there's some weed and cocaine in there. And we're walking the highway. But this cop just picks us up. We get in his car. He drives us to the hotel and just lets us out. He doesn't say hi or nothing. We got the drugs and the cocaine and smelling the whole car up. He just picks us up, let us off. Doesn't say a word.
Here's the thing. Soccer is the most expensive sport in the world. Those guys get paid the most. I think it costs the most to actually play the sport. I believe that baseball is next, then football, and then basketball. I'm not sure where golf fits in and all that. But it seems like that the sports that were the most unpopular 10 years ago are now the most popular sports, and they're commanding the most money. And the sports that were super popular 10 years ago are now the ones that want to command the highest dollar amount, but the product's gotten so bad that they're falling by the wayside to these other sports. And, at the end of the day, if Spence and Crawford don't do well as a fight, then a lot of other super fights are not going to happen in the sport. And the sport does run a risk of dying off because of the popularity and because of the fights not happening when they should happen or when they're supposed to happen. And people trying to once again just price gouge fans because they can, you know. And I think it's frustrating on both sides. It's frustrating for the business owners and the promoters, and I think it's frustrating for the fans having to go through all this. And you got to look at it one of two ways, and I'm going to end it here. Who's more likely to lose in the situation? With the fans having gas prices going through the roof and everyday expenses going through the roof, and now your favorite sporting events going through the roof, are they closer to losing more money than the promotional companies are? Or are the promotional companies and these big wigs losing more money than the fans are invested in these fights, you know? Because I think it's the fans who are really losing out. Like I said, the quality's gone down and the prices have gone up. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. That like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. That Facebook, that Instagram, that YouTube, that Twitter. But you're more than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. If you want to collabo, feature a product or your channel on my channel, hit my Gmail, because it is a flock of cards at gmail.com. And we are mine.
Say you a Mac need bitches. Overcut dope, you pack need stitches. I hear them clapping, but it's not enough hands. Cause it's too many rappers, not enough fans. Too many bitches, not enough pants. So she walk around bottomless, hippopotamus ass. I hope that you acknowledging the bottle and grass. I have your whole pipe polishing, swallowing fast. For my niggas that'll do it if they got to. If it goes down, they got you. Attack whoever in the way of the pay, they'll jab you. For the males, females, they slap you. I know it sound kinda mean, I'm a harsh fellow. And you a marshmallow, heart pump, orange jello. Hell no, they ain't fucking with the dude. I the monster squad, that's a lose-lose. I know you like it, bitch. This shit right here is groovy. Don't need no camera, bitch. My life is like a movie. This that shit you can ride to. This that shit you can ride to. This that shit you can ride to. This that shit. Hey yo, I'm smoking on the finest pine that you can find. So even though I'm a pimp, I can't sell dimes. Super fresh, piranha black jeans on. I just wanna get rich, put my team on. And niggas talking about support bill, hip hop, but ain't supporting shit till they homeboy shit drop. What's the use of being political? Why hypocritical? My niggas is all I listen to. You wonder who the shit? Well, it isn't you. I'm fly as a bird, y'all pigeon food. All you monkey ass niggas get ridiculed. Monster squad, what real niggas listen to. Put your money on sauce, that's your best bet. Out of GGP, niggas spot less. I'm the best, and you are just a pest. And I got pest control to suppress any threat. Lewis Key. I know you like it, bitch. This shit right here is groovy. Don't need no camera, bitch. My life is like a movie. And this that shit you can ride to.